Representative, I've got your amendment here. We've talked about this amendment. I remember a few weeks ago talking about this amendment, and my first reaction was shock. And I said, don't accept this. I thought this was the offer.
Yep.
This is the most conservative approach I've ever seen in legislative language for medical practice. Are you aware of any other situation where it's required to have your doctor, then have two more doctors, then have two oversight doctors?
No, and let me add the additional part. If the concern is that the medical professionals are not doing right and you're concerned that they would do something different, we're going to let the state control it. A commission shall be established of an impartial panel of physicians, healthcare providers, mental health professionals, and adolescent medicine specialists to evaluate the legitimacy and severity of gender dysphoria diagnosis. So in addition to the 5 physicians that you personally may know or find, we're going to create a state agency to evaluate every case. Tell me who here with any medical treatment would have to go find 5 doctors and get the government's approval before you could do it. So let me tell you why I'm offering this amendment.
Please do.
Because I've asked these families, I've asked these parents who are either facing fleeing this state or getting the medical care that is necessary for the life of their child, and they have said, we'll do it.
And that's because they love Texas.
It's because they love Texas and they love their child, and never before have we asked them to pick one or the other.
With this bill, without this amendment, I'm afraid that would change. Let me ask you, if you have to go through this process, this is for kids with severe gender dysphoria, is that correct?
That's a great point, Mr. Bucy. Severe gender dysphoria. So gender dysphoria is a medical diagnosis that says that you are identifying and representing yourself in this position for 6 months. I have heard it said, and we heard it in the committee, this idea that there's a social movement, that kids are going on TikTok trans. They're just seeing other kids doing it and wanting to do it. And so this would say severe gender dysphoria. So it would make sure that this is not just some teenager who's oppositional, defiant, wants to be against their parents. But these are some of the families that we have heard about that have said, since my child woke up at 5 years old and cried because Santa Claus didn't bring them the gift that they desperately asked for, which is the right body. This would protect those families.
And those families would have to go through 5 doctors and an oversight panel if your amendment gets on.
Correct. And so
what if your amendment
doesn't
get on? What happens to those families?
These families won't be able to stay.
They have to leave this state of Texas.
They either have to choose their child or choose the state. But passing this law without this amendment means they can't do both. They can't stay here. And I know those families are prepared to do it, but I'm going to ask, is there anything Texan about running out your citizens because you don't agree with them politically?
The bill layout, it was mentioned that other areas of the world maybe are backing off on this, but they're still exploring, they're still looking at options. If we pass this bill without this amendment, can we continue to follow the science and see? Because we'd shut it down.
No.
There's no middle ground here.
There's no middle ground. There's no room for medical professionals to do it. And I want to ask, and just think about it, how many people in here take testosterone? How many here ask for a little hormonal help? How many here took estrogen after menopause? You're talking about the same medications that many folks may take at their own decision with their doctor. This is really about health care for children. And I get Oliverson's concern when he says, I want to make sure this is right. I want to make sure it's not like opioids. We're literally creating a state agency to determine best practices and evolve with the medical community. The difference is, if you don't accept this amendment, you're doing the thing he admitted, which is you didn't ban opioids and you didn't ban lobotomies. You're banning the existence of a population if you do it without this amendment.
Well, Representative, while I think, as I said, this amendment shocked me because it's so conservative, but I appreciate that you have worked diligently to find any reasonable path and balance to make sure that kids with the most severe gender dysphoria, the most severe cases in our state, have a path. You know, as a Texan, you hear all the time people that are like, I got here as quick as I could. This bill is telling Texans that's no longer our attitude. I hope that we pass your amendment. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.